Right, so today, and just for charity, I thought I'd show you how to make chili con carne. Yeah, chili con carne. Basically, you're going to need a few ingredients before you start. So here we go, I'm going to reel them off, but they're also going to be written underneath, along with my Just Giving page, which you should all donate to, because this is how we make money. Do it for charity, yeah? Charity. Right, so what you're going to need? You're going to need some minced beef. You're going to need an onion. You're going to need some red kidney beans, chopped tomatoes, tomato puree, garlic, comes in a packet. You can also cut it yourself. These are red chilies, they're dried, hot. This is stock, beef stock, bit of flour, and some sliced mixed pepper. You're going to need some Coke also, and some Jack Daniels. But I'll tell you about that later, alright? Right, so let's start. First thing we're going to do is cut up the onion. Right, so the first thing is cutting up this onion. What I'm going to do is just take off the top, very close to the bottom. I mean, most of you know how to cut an onion up anyway, but I thought I'd tell you just in case, you know, because there are people who haven't got a clue, basically. Root way up, about halfway through it, and just slice through very carefully like that. Nice. And you can see that the outside, the skinny sort of stuff's all coming off. I'm just going to sling that to one side. Get this off as quick as I can, otherwise you're going to be bored. There you go. Right. So what we do now is put the root away from us and just cut some little slices without cutting through. So we don't want to cut through to this side. Don't know if you can see that, like that. I'll do one of these halves, the other one I'll do off camera because otherwise, you know, boring. Right, so once you cut through all the way, you'll see that you've got this sort of section, the layers that go in that direction, you've got cuts going that direction, and when you cut it like this, basically, you're going to make a dice, a little dice, nice tiny little dice there. Lovely, look at that. Turn it on its way, and woo! Fantastic. Right, now I'm going to do the other onion. We're going to put a little bit of oil in the pan and we're going to start to fry it off. Okay, so I'll join you. Right, so next I've heated up a bit of oil. I actually use Ghee, which is mainly used in Indian cooking, but it's basically condensed butter. Basically all the watery stuff has been purified off of it and you're just left with a real McCoy. And if you smell that, I wish you could smell that. It smells like you want to drink it. Really, really nice. Anyway, purified stuff, doesn't really burn. I've got about a tablespoon in there, and there is the finished onion. That's all going in. I haven't put too much ghee in here because the mince meat that I've bought is fairly cheap, and it contains quite a fair bit of fat. So if you've got meat that has less fat in it, you might need to put a bit more in here, otherwise the whole meal will dry out. Okay, so you've got to be a bit savvy about that one. So you've got to have a bit of fat in it, it's no problem. This fat's good for you. So that's going to cook for a little while. It's going to go brown, and then we're going to stick the mince in on top. All right, but I'll join you again then. I'll say goodbye for a little while. Right, next what you want to do, the onion's still cooking. Get a glass, put an ice cube in it, and a bit of Jack Daniels, like that. Just let that mellow, for a minute, just a minute, just to make it mellow, because this is important right now. So I'm just going to guide you back to the moment in hand. Well, there we go, look at that, it's lovely. Actually, let's refocus. Right, so as you can see, changing colour, it's going sort of fawny, browny sort of colour. We're going to add a little bit of garlic, about a clove of garlic, that's about that much. Just like squeezing toothpaste. Although trust me children, I wouldn't use that on your teeth if you run out of crest. Right, next, the big boy. This is the mince, it's going to make a bit of a crackle when it goes in. I didn't say earlier how much I was using, but there's 750 grams here. Right, don't need that, doesn't taste very nice. Right, next, what you've got to do is keep breaking it down. This is when you get lumps. Use your muskies, keep it stirring around, there we go. And it'll change into a pulpy sort of mix rather than that stringy stuff. And the idea is, at the moment it's quite pinky colour, we're going to brown it all so it's sort of a brown colour, funnily enough. And as you can see already, the fat's starting to come out of it. But that's good because that's where all the juice is, that's where all the flavour is. So that's not such a bad thing. So we'll keep on stirring that round. Okay? Okay, so while that's going on, what we've got to do is go back to the glass, open the Coke. Just pour, not the whole thing, just a little bit here on there. And this is important. That tastes rather good. I like that. Gets you in the mood, and it cures the dull moments in between the browning. You know. So what have we got? Mince is on. We've got a few more ingredients to add yet. I'll get to those in a minute. All right. Right. Well, as you can see, not only is it boiling, but it's all turned brown. And this is the point where you really want to keep, as I said, you've got to keep stirring it because you don't want any lumps to form. And I've got it down to a nice sort of rolling mixture. There's no lumps in there. The only pieces in there are the onion. Lovely, fantastic. Right, don't forget to vote with your wallet. There's a link at the bottom with my Just Giving page for my marathon. Which is coming up next month, and also other ultra sort of stuff that's coming up the rest of this year. I'm doing a 100k walk at the end of May and a triathlon in August, so that'll be a laugh. Cheers, by the way. Right, so you see all this shiny stuff, yeah, that's fat. What we're going to do is make a roux with that. And a roux is fat and flour. Just going to add a tablespoon of flour to that. I'm using whole grain flour. And we don't want it too stodgy, that's important, but we want to get rid of all the liquid. So there's still a little bit of liquid there, so we add a little bit more flour. It's important not to do over too much. If it goes really thick, you're going to need a lot of water to actually counterbalance that. I would say that's just about right. There's no real water in there now, none of that watery stuff, just bubbles coming up through the thing, and I can feel that on the bottom. It's just starting to stick, which is fine. I'm going to add some tomato puree, because that's what they put in chili, apparently. Now this is important. the next thing is these buggers. These are red chilies. They're dried red chilies. And I'm going to count them in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I like it hot. Hey, fantastic. Stir all that lot in. It's definitely starting to stick now. Just starting to stick on the bottom. It's perfect. I'm going to stir this around for a couple more minutes. Catch you in a sec. Okay, so it's brown. It's the roux's been added, so the thickening's there. Now we've got to water it down a little bit so that it goes a bit further, right? Because that's what it's all about. Eating it like at the moment, it's because it's quite strong, basically. So I want to make it go a little bit further. I'm on my own. This is like 6 or 7 portions in there to me. Fantastic. Right, so next up, I use frozen chilli because it's just easier. Do that in a minute. I'll get the kitchen porter to do that. The reason why I put this in now is because it contains a bit of water, so I didn't want the water to infect the roux earlier on. Know what I mean? Right, so pouring bit. Lovely, fantastic. Right, next we're going to add a tin of chopped tomatoes as they are, just like that. I don't mess around with whole tomatoes, buy them chopped, why not, you know. Can like that, it's only going to cost about 30p, lovely. Use the whole can. Mix it all in. Important thing now, when you're making a dish like this, is to make it boil in between each addition, and it shouldn't take too long, to be quite honest. I'm going to add my stock. These are the stocks I use. I use the liquid ones, the gels. I find them the best tasting, to be quite honest. And I've filled the tin up with water. Give that a wash, get all the gear in there. Delicious. Mind your finger on that, children. There, like tea towel. Hey, come on, very patriotic, yes. Okay, I bought it in IKEA, £1. Lovely. Those at the back are very sort of, you know, notice board. Okay, enough of that. This is about the right consistency. What I'm going to do now is let that brew for a little while. I'm going to put the lid on, cook it for a little while, see what it tastes like. In the meantime, yes, you know it. Another boring moment, so let's use up to the JD. Let's pour the rest of the old Coke in there. Perhaps I had a little bit too little Coke on the first attempt. Now the ice is floating. Cheers. Now, you might find this a little bit funny, you might find this a bit serious. There's two things involved here, but at the end of the day what I'm trying to do is raise a bit of money for my charity, which is meningitis. So please donate. At the bottom underneath there's a little tag, a little URL, take it to Just Giving, donate £1 or £2, it'll be fantastic. People will love you for life, and you might even save a life or two, yeah? So cheers to you, thanks very much for that. I'll come back and show you how it's done on the finish. Okay folks, let me just turn off the fan because we're coming to a crucial stage. Right, it's been cooking away for a little while now, as you can see. The ice is nearly melted, and Mr. Jack Daniels has done his trick. Well, as you can see, this is quite loose, it's quite sloppy, but that's fine because it's not quite finished yet. However, what we've got to do now at this stage is just taste it. This is a clean spoon, by the way. Ha. Yum! Alright, so basically what I'm getting there is a bit of a kick, and that's supplied by these boys. Right, and here's the reason why I counted them in. Yes, I'm going to count them out. Now, you might not find all of the... Yes, it is a bit hot. You might not find all of these, but don't worry too much. At the end of the day, all they're going to do is break down and give you a little bit of a bite if you do bite into one. But trust me, if you can, best to actually find them all. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay, so what I've done now is I've removed all of the red chilies, which is and it's looking a little bit better already. What you're looking for, I mean, this has been cooking for about half an hour. What you're looking for is a bit of shine on top, but you don't want the fat to separate. You know where it goes into little pools on top. You don't want that. That means you've not added enough flour. And if you don't get the shine, that means you've added too much flour. Okay, that takes a little bit longer to cook out, otherwise it's going to taste, funnily enough, it's going to taste floury. So because mine's quite sloppy, I've drained all the water out of my kidney beans. Alright, if, say for instance, yours was fairly thick, and usually if it's fairly thick it means it's got too much flour in it, but if it was fairly thick, you might want to leave the water in there, because that'll add a little extra moisture to it. Okay, and the reason why I've waited so late to add the kidney beans is because it's difficult to find the red chilies. Know what I mean? I don't know, some people. Anyway, Jack, thank you very much. Okay, so there you have it. Basically, what you're going to do now is keep it on the stove and boil it down. When you boil it down, don't have a lid on it. The steam rises up and it gets thicker and thicker and thicker until basically you're happy with it. Personally, if you're going to freeze it down, don't leave it too thick, because if you do, you're going to have trouble. Freezing always knocks the moisture out of something, it always does. So you want it a little bit too thin, a little bit like it is at the moment when you freeze it down. There's only one thing to do now. Let's get that clean spoon. Yes, alright, I washed it, there you go. Just have a little bit of that gear inside your mouth, see what's going on. Worth a vote or two, I'd say. Alright, get your wallet out, get on the site, give us some money, and we'll all be happy at the end of the day. You've got a free recipe. I mean, I don't give this away all the time. Know what I mean? Alright folks, so 15 minutes later and here we are. It's nice and thick. It's thick enough to either serve straight away, or it's thick enough or thin enough to put in the freezer. Personally, I'm going to freeze all mine down. If you're going to serve it, this sort of quantity is going to do you about 8 people at least. No problem at all. Unless they're very big people, you might get 2 portions out of it. Alright? No disrespect. So, all you've got to do is cook some rice. For myself, I take 6 tablespoons of rice, cover it with water, cook it up, takes about 8 minutes, 9 minutes. Then it's done. Drain it off, job done. Bob's your uncle. Bit of this on top, bit of grated cheese. Fantastic. Alright, anybody's pleased with that. Bit of red wine, can't go wrong. Fantastic. Alright, don't forget to vote. URL's on the bottom. Please donate. I know I keep on going on about it, but that's what I'm here for. Alright, serious stuff. Bye now.